I'm not too sure if that intro played or not, but here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Once again, my co-host, Oscar Silva, is here to join me on another week of the podcast, as I just mentioned. Oscar, how's it going over there?
It's been a couple weeks since we've had a podcast, but we are back. Planning had a little vacation over in Turkey, and I really think that it's a rough week whenever we don't have the UFC putting on an event, but we do have last week's UFC Vegas 79 to cover.
Absolutely, but it just means we have a week to catch up upon. As you just mentioned there, I had 2 weeks away on holiday, and then after I came back, my whole life has changed. I started studying university, and now I'm back in a new job at a new place. Yeah, so my life has completely changed since I got back. So it's been a whirlwind, but we're here. We're making it happen just for you guys. We've got some fantastic events to talk about. UFC 293, Grasso vs. Shevchenko 2, and obviously the recent one that happened on just gone, Rafael Fiziev vs. Montañez Gamrot. We had a split draw, we had an injury, and we had one that shocked the world completely. I'm looking forward to it. So why don't we introduce the first event that we're going to be talking about, and that is UFC 293, Adesanya versus Strickland, live in Australia. And oh my gosh, I was on holiday when this happened. I woke myself up because I did not want to miss this main event. I woke myself up at 6 a.m. to watch this because I couldn't miss it. I really couldn't miss it. I was going on a boat trip at 9 a.m., but I couldn't care. I had to watch this fight. I woke up just before Alexander Volkov versus Tai Tuivasa, and that was a fantastic fight for as long as it lasted. But the main event, that for me was just picturesque. I felt like I was watching the Sean Strickland movie. It was incredible.
Man, there's not many words I can use to describe this performance, but I would say the number one word that came to mind was confusion. I've never seen Adesanya outclassed for 5 rounds in this manner. And Sean Strickland was a guy that we respected his striking. We realized his defense was good, but we didn't know it was a championship caliber skill set that he brought to the table. And on this night, he was the better man, and he used his skill set that a lot of people would view as basic to beat Adesanya, who has some of the most complex striking we've ever seen in the octagon. I only have positive things to say about Strickland after that night. The guy didn't even wrestle, and he admitted he had to wrestle in order to have the best chance at winning this. But he did it with his main skill, and he looked outstanding. Now he's a champion. There's a lot of options for him for his first defense, but Adesanya doing a rematch with him might be a logical choice. I personally think Adesanya definitely had an off night. He did not look himself out there, and he would probably win a rematch, but this was Strickland's night.
Absolutely agree. You talked about it there. It was confusing. It was a whirlwind watching this fight. One of the best strikers we've ever seen in MMA, just getting dominated. It's crazy. By Sean Strickland, obviously we respected his striking abilities, but we just thought maybe Adesanya, what I thought when heading into this fight, Adesanya's going to pick him apart, maybe get that late knockdown or knockout, and it just didn't happen like that. Sean Strickland just beat him to pillar to post. He was just beating them to the punches, and that was it. That was the story of the fight. It was incredible. I loved it. And dare I say, I even like Sean Strickland champion. I think he's a fantastic character.
Yeah, not many guys are willing to speak their mind like he is. A guy we're going to talk about later, Bryce Mitchell, is another guy that comes to mind. But either way, the guy will say what is on his mind, and that is refreshing. That's what made Nate Diaz so popular.
Exactly. Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Kudos to Sean Strickland. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's phenomenal what he's done. And I believe maybe one of the biggest underdogs to win a championship in a championship fight. So that's crazy as well.
Yeah, Adesanya was a 7-1 favorite heading into that fight. It was a foregone conclusion, quite honest. So we were already booking the next fight for Israel Adesanya. This felt like a mandatory title defense since it was in the Oceanic region in Australia. But yeah, you can never underestimate your opponent. And I feel like Adesanya probably did that, as we found out he was drinking 3 weeks prior. So there's a lot of question marks coming out of this one, and I think they'll be answered in that rematch.
Absolutely agree. The rematch will be fantastic, and when it hopefully does go down soon, we'll be looking forward to it. And I think it just adds a little bit more spice to it. Now Strickland has won the first bout, so that second bout is going to be phenomenal. There's going to be a lot of bragging rights Strickland's way because he did beat him, and he beat him fair and square. Adesanya will be looking to prove something, and as you mentioned there, obviously the recent story of Adesanya having a DUI, getting arrested over the limit 3 weeks prior to his main event championship title belt. It doesn't look good, does it?
No, not at all. Even if it was just a little bit, I don't know if the most disciplined fighters are out there drinking and getting pulled over before their biggest fight.
Completely agree. Not a fantastic look for Adesanya, but he's going to bounce back. I think this is going to light a little bit more fire into the Adesanya belly. I feel like we're going to see him, really bounce back in emphatic fashion. A fantastic performance. We'll move over to Alexander Volkov. As I mentioned, I didn't really catch these cards because I was on holiday, but I saw some of the highlights. So I'm hoping, Oscar can pull me through these events. But, Volkov, kind of steamrolling through Taito Vasa. That's the way to put it.
Yeah, it appears that Taito Vasa has taken a lot of damage, and it's catching up with him. Alexander Volkov was able to drop Taito Vasa multiple times in this fight. Taito Vasa was completely outclassed. Reach advantage was a problem for him, and Volkov was able to get a knockdown and eventually wrap up an Ezekiel choke, a choke that has only been done by Alexei Olenek in the heavyweight division. It's a very hard submission to pull off, and Volkov not known to be a grappler at all, but Taito Vasa definitely has a hole in the ground game, and it was put on full display. Volkov is now on a 3-fight finishing streak, and I think people are starting to respect him again after he had a couple tough losses. A lot of people thought his hopes of fighting for title were over, but it appears they're as alive as ever.
Absolutely. If Volkov has a great performance on the day, I believe he can challenge anyone in the top 5. If you look at his height, his reach, and his ability to fight, it's fantastic. But he's just got to use it the way he used it against Taito Vasa. And, he's got to really build on this performance now and, really hunt for that title. I truly believe he can possess, some sort of challenge to the top 5, top 3 in the world. He's definitely got the ability to. He just needs to put it all together and make it happen. Manel Kape took on Felipe dos Santos. Felipe, best way to describe it, is it against Manel Kape on his debut, taking us a short notice. I still think he looked relatively good. I caught the end of this, so he won the last round, but I know he lost the first 2 rounds.
This was one of the best fights of the whole year. A lot of people did not give Felipe dos Santos a shot. He was a guy that was supposed to be on the contender series, and instead he gets called up to the UFC roster, and he fights Manel Kape, one of the top 10 guys, one of the most dangerous power punchers in the division. And he goes out there, he does get dropped, but he gets right back up and returns fire. Manel Kape obviously had a little more experience here, but there was not a point in this fight where Felipe gave up on himself. Manel Kape, he proved that he can fight a hard 15. He's now pulling the trigger more than he did in his early UFC fights, and I think he's ready for a step up in competition. It appears like Kai France is next for him.
Yeah, I'd love for that fight to happen. It makes a lot of sense in this, right? And they've been going back and forth for a very long time. Just make it happen, UFC. Moving over to the next few fights. Justin Tafa, Tyson Pedro, Carlos Ulberg all getting the win in Australia. Justin Tafa and Tyson Pedro getting the knockout. Fantastic knockouts. Justin Tafa getting his knockout in 1 minute and 22 seconds of the first round. And obviously Tyson Pedro getting his knockout in 2 minutes and 12 seconds of the very first round as well. Heading into this one, obviously, I don't say they got favorable matches, but I feel like these are both fights that the Australians could have won and should have won, and they did.
Yeah, they booked them against lower level competition in order for them to shine, and they pulled through. I really like these cards where the UFC goes overseas and they booked a lot of the a lot of the local fighters out there, and they all get finishes. I really like those cards.
Absolutely agree. And Carlos Ulberg as well, special mention. Him getting a submission victory over Donny John. I think that's a fantastic feather in his cap. I think Donny John is fantastic. He's very underrated at 205 pounds. So I think that's a fantastic win for Carlos.
Yeah, I kind of can't look over Don Jung's draw with Sam Alvey, but either way, we saw a new wrinkle in the game of Carlos Ulberg getting that third round submission. The ref didn't see it originally, but the power of replay came through, and Carlos Ulberg gets a really impressive win.
Absolutely agree. And we'll keep it swiftly moving on as well. Chep Masarokau versus Jack Jenkins. That ended in a tap out due to arm injury. I didn't catch this one. What happened, Oscar? And it sounds a bit gruesome. I think I might have seen it on Twitter, but I don't think I saw the ending.
Yeah, so Jack Jenkins actually won round one. He was piecing up Chepe, but Chepe turned things around in round two. He came out really aggressive, and then he attempted a takedown, and Jack Jenkins put a lot of weight on his arm, and it bent the wrong way. Really, really tough to see, especially with Jenkins was such a big favorite. But another win for Chepe Masvidal.
Absolutely. And obviously Jamie Malarkey getting back to winning getting back to winning ways in Australia. Nazar Hakapas beating London Quinones, the tough, veteran over there. And Blood Diamond, 3-3 now inside the UFC. 0-3 inside the UFC. Surely his 10 years done now. Surely his time in the UFC is a wrap. Surely.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that performance was as bad as it gets. Blood Diamond is labeled as this amazing striker, but he lost on the feet in this fight. He got hurt on the feet in this fight against a guy that I don't think anybody would call a top tier striker. So I think it's time for Mike Mateta to go back to the regional circuit.
Absolutely. Gabriel Miranda beating Shane Young. Fantastic performance. Fantastic win over Shane Young. Shane Young's always going to be tough as they come. And obviously in the first fight of the evening, Kiefer Crosby. My God, I was hoping this guy to get it done. I love Kiefer. Obviously an Irish prospect, getting signed to the UFC on short notice to fight Kevin Josette, the Frenchman living in Australia. I do believe trading out of Australia as well. So, it was a big fight for both men. Kiefer Crosby, he had fought against Cowboy Oliveira outside in the UFC, knocked him out in round one. He fought on the Kingpin boxing cards, the influencer boxing card. If you watch that against Aaron Chalmers, another reality TV star, and he won. And he said he called for his shot inside the UFC, and he got it on short notice. Unfortunately, this day wasn't his day, but the most important thing is he's inside the UFC and he'll be back.
Yeah, Kevin Jose is one of the city kickboxing guys, and I'm sure he was giving some hard rounds to his training partners heading into this one. Adesanya and Mike Mateta were saying that this guy was a real danger in the gym, so look out for him.
Absolutely. Well, that was UFC 293. Sean Strickland absolutely demolishing the headlines. Absolutely putting on a fantastic performance over there in Australia. Goes over to essentially his back garden, beats him. Wow, phenomenal. Sean Strickland has the biggest balls known to man. It is phenomenal. I love it. And we're going to keep it swiftly moving on to the next event. More controversy, inside MMA. We're kind of used to it at this point. We're almost numb to judges and their scorecards, and we never know what they're going to produce. This one ended in a split draw. We'll talk about it. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. One of the judges scored it a 10-8 round to Alexa Grasso in that last round, and ultimately, that's what deemed it a split draw. Oscar, your thoughts on the split draw, and in your opinion, should Valentina Shevchenko got a hand raised that night?
Okay, so number one, this should not have been a draw under any circumstance, because 10-8 rounds should be rounds where either the fight is eligible for a stoppage or where we see complete domination on one end. And that was simply not the case. Valentina Shevchenko was winning round 5 on the feet. In fact, she ended the round with more significant strikes landed, 23-20. And Alexa Grasso was given that 10-8 on the basis of a minute and 30 seconds of control time and a singular submission attempt. I think that is ridiculous, especially when you consider round three, which was a better candidate for a 10-8 because Valentina Shevchenko got 3 minutes and 16 seconds of control time and a submission attempt of her own. So if you're going to score round 5 at 10-8, score round 3 at 10-8. But Mike Bell really showed that he is probably an incompetent judge overall. Usually we don't see his name come up, but this was unexcusable, so much so that the Nevada State Athletic Commission gave a seminar on what a 10-8 should look like the week after. And if you look at the entirety of the fight, really good performance from both women. I kind of felt bad that somebody had to lose before the judge scorecards were read, but at the end of the day, nobody really lost, nobody really won. I feel like if anybody lost, it was Valentina. Valentina had a real case to win the fight. I feel like the swing round was round 4. On the night, I thought Grasso won round 4 because she landed some really solid knees to Shevchenko when Shevchenko was trying to play the one hand down game. And that game doesn't work. When you have one hand down, it should be 2 that are down. So I did give the fight to Grasso 40-47 on the night, but if you rewatch round 4, there's a real case that Shevchenko won that round because she opened up a cut on Grasso. But either way, very close fight. And many people are saying that Valentina had fallen off. Her best is were behind her. I think she can win this title if they have a trilogy. But either way, really awesome fight. One of my favorite fights of this year. And the crowd was spectacular. Of course, it was Noche UFC, Mexican Independence Day. A very popular figure that week was Alexei Grasso, of course, being Mexican. But yeah, very shameful scoring by Mike Bell.
Absolutely agree. UFC Noche, as you talked about, was a fantastic card. I'm absolutely gutted. I had to miss it. On holiday still. Could you believe it? But yeah, fantastic cards, some fantastic performances. Jack Della Maddalena getting the split decision over Kevin Holland. Raul Rosas Jr. returning back to winning ways in 40 seconds. Talk to me about the co-main event and Raul Rosas Jr. I'm just going to quickly go get my power cable from my laptop. I'll be 2 minutes.
Okay. The co-main event was confusing to me because the crowd started booing. These guys had really high output. Jack Della Maddalena was able to outstrike Kevin Holland and look good doing it. Kevin Holland, to me, looked like he was focusing a little too much on his defense. You don't win fights with defense. And Jack Della Maddalena was going to the body as he usually does, and he did not have to worry about a grappler like he did in his last fight against Basil Hafez. A lot of people were judging Jack Della Maddalena poorly, saying he was overhyped after that split decision win, but you're forgetting that he's fighting Kevin Holland, who does not grapple. In this fight, he did go for a takedown, but it was stuffed easily by Jack Della Maddalena. It shows you the gap between Basil Hafez and Kevin Holland in terms of offensive wrestling. And it also shows you that Kevin Holland, who does not like going to the ground in his fights, was not all that comfortable on the feet. I think Jack Della Maddalena can still challenge for a belt someday. But for Kevin Holland, a lot of people were saying that maybe his activity is costing him. I don't think his activity is costing him. I just think Jack Della Maddalena is a better striker. And Kevin Holland did not have enough, and I give all the credit to Jack Della Maddalena.
Absolutely. I know. Fantastic. And, a great, fantastic performance. After, you would say, pretty much a lackluster performance in his last bout. So, he needed to get a big win. Even though he won his last bout, but I thought there was some vulnerability showed in that bout. So, a fantastic win. He's improving. He's still very young in the game, and this one's a great win over Kevin Holland, who's been a staple inside the middleweight and in the welterweight division. So a fantastic win to get Jack Della Maddalena under his belt. Raul Rosas Jr. I think the best way of putting it, without obviously no disrespect, Terrence Mitchell, is he's not UFC caliber. I think that's the only way I can really put it. He's got thrown in the limelight a little bit. Raul Rosas Jr. is a fantastic prospect. He had a loss in his last fight, but he's going to improve from now. And I feel like we're going to see a bit of a tear now for Raul Rosas. I think he's a fantastic prospect. A lot to learn still. This is a good win for him, but Terrence Mitchell, nowhere near UFC caliber, shouldn't be even in the UFC roster. It's shameful.
Yeah, Terrence Mitchell was trying to come into the UFC years back when they did that flyweight season of the Ultimate Fighter. He got knocked out in 30 seconds by Kai France. And the only success he had was on the Alaskan regional circuit. And we know that circuit is very weak. Raul Russell Jr., on the other hand, has been fighting killers since his young age, since his teenage years. So he blew the doors off of Terrence Mitchell. And let's be honest, he did not fight smart, but he knew that Terrence was not high level, and he took advantage of it. Very easy win for Raul Russell Jr., who fought very angry.
Absolutely. We talked about one Mexican prospect. We talked about another. Daniel Zalahiba versus Christian Yagos. Submission, Anaconda choke. Round 2. He improves to 14-1. Just how good is Daniel?
Daniel Zellhuber has looked so much better since his debut when he fought Trey Ogden. Trey Ogden is not a high-level striker, and he found a way to lose in that fight. He did not pull the trigger that night. But since then, he goes out there against Lando Banata, and he outstrikes him. Then he fights Christos Giagos. Christos Giagos does win round 1. I picked Christos to win this fight. I thought he had a good shot, but in round 2, he slowed down a bit, got clipped, went for a takedown, got caught in that anaconda choke, and we're seeing new wrinkles in Zellhuber's game. He was really just known as a striker, so to see him get a submission is definitely noteworthy.
Absolutely agree. Kyle Nelson versus Fernando Padilla ended in a unanimous decision. Lupita Godinez beats Aless Reed. Roman Kopylov beats Josh Friend, and Edgar Chairez versus Daniel Leceda ends in a premature no contest because of premature stoppage. What are your thoughts on them? Few obviously, point out your key highlights, key facts, etc.
Yeah, Nelson and Padilla was a very close fight. I was surprised it wasn't a split decision, but Kyle Nelson got it done in the end. Padilla was getting hit a little too much for my liking. He was a big favorite in that fight, but he did not get the win. But Lupi Godinez maybe had one of the most impressive performances of the whole night. She looked outstanding. Elise Reed somehow overcame a really bad armbar that broke her arm, and then we went to the triangle, saved by the bell, and come round 2, she gets slammed, and then she gives up her back, gets choked out. Lupi looked amazing, as I thought she would. And Roman Kopylov is on this awesome run. Who would have thought it? A lot of people thought he couldn't even beat Alessio Di Chirico a year back, and now he's killing these guys. And one of the guys he destroyed was Josh Friend, got him with that liver punch in round 2. Roman Kopylov is a real problem in the striking realm. And Edgar Chairez, Daniel Leceda, awful officiating. So Chris Tognoni sees that Daniel Leceda is stuck in a standing guillotine, and his arm is just up against the cage, and he checks it 3 times. Then his arm falls. It appears it goes limp, but you have to remember, when you get choked up, your arm doesn't just go limp. Your legs goes limp. Everything goes limp. And as soon as the arm went limp, Chris Tognoni assumed that Daniel was passed out. That was not the case. As soon as the choke is let go of, Daniel protests. I think that was bad officiating, and that's why they're running it back, and that's why it was considered a premature stop.
Absolutely. I mean, a tough call. Ultimately, the wrong call. Absolutely. Tracy Cortez beating Jasmine Vicious. Tracy Cortez improving to 11-1. Looking like a real good prospect in that 125-pound division. Charlie Campbell, you might recognize his face. He was on the Dana White Contender Series when he got knocked out by Chris Duncan, but now he returns to the UFC, and now he knocks out Alex Reyes. And Josephine Kinson versus Mark McMahon. That was a tough one. Talk to me about them first 3 of the evening.
Yeah, the first 3 of the evening, Justin Knudsen got a 10-8 in every round from Mike Bell, who was very happy to hand out these 10-8s. And I think that was a little more reasonable. Mark McMahon that doesn't appear to UFC caliber. Justin Knudsen should have been signed by Dana White on the Contender Series, but a short notice spot opened up and she took advantage. Charlie Campbell, I like the guy. He made a little mistake with DC almost there. He asked DC how his boxing was, and then he immediately remarks that it doesn't matter what DC thinks, making a callback to The Rock who appeared on SmackDown the night before. And Alex Reyes coming off a 6-year layoff. I don't know how he was still in the UFC, but Charlie destroyed him easily. And Tracy Cortez looked as good as ever. She went to Brazil to improve her striking with the Pitbull brothers, and it looked good out there against Jasmine Jasudavicius. She pieced her up, won at least 2 rounds, and looked good.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about the next event. That was the USA Noche. Fantastic event. Finishes top to bottom. Roman Kopylov, Daniel Zahuba, Roy Rosas Jr., Jack McLean, Alexa Grasso, Anthony Shevchenko ended in a split draw. This event had it all. It was a fantastic event. Absolutely love watching it back the next day. And then we'll talk about this next one. This one is Bellator. We'll talk about Bellator 299 in Dublin. Johnny Eblen versus Fabian Edwards. Potentially the last Bellator event in the historic run in Dublin. Bellator have hosted so many shows in Dublin. It's going to be sad to see it go eventually. But in the main event, Johnny Eblen, I mean, he absolutely starched Fabian Edwards. Starched him, slept him, knocked him down, and then the elbows on top just finished the deal. Johnny Eblen is, if he went into the UFC, I would say he's a top 3 easily. I truly believe that. At 185 pounds, I think he's a top 3 ranked fighter, potentially even a champion at middleweight.
I think he would have a very good shot at beating Sean Strickland, if you ask me. But either way, I feel like the big story coming out of this fight was not only that Johnny Eblen cut, but the fact that he ended up getting into a little altercation there with Fabian Edwards' brother, Leon Edwards. They really don't like each other. So will that fight ever happen? Probably not, but it was definitely interesting seeing the welterweight champion almost getting to a fight on the Bellator pay-per-view.
Yeah, Johnny Eblen said on the MMA Hour with Errol Houani last night that he thinks that that was his last Bellator fight inside Bellator. So
wow, that would be something special if we see Johnny Eblen hop right into the Shark Tank of middleweight. You put him in there with a top 10 guy right away. I would love to see it, and I think he really destroys a lot of those guys in that top 10.
If Bellator does fold and we have this administration sort of stuff, there's only a few people that I want UFC to pick up and acquire. And Johnny Eblen is at the top of that list. Johnny Eblen, Aaron Pico, Fabian Edwards. I would still love to see Fabian Edwards inside the UFC. Yes, because he's got that Edwards name and he's still a marketable fighter. Everyone loves to watch him fight. He's got these fantastic knockouts. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, there are a few people. Johnny Eblen, Fabian Edwards, Aaron Pico, AJ McKee, the Patricio Pitbull, the Pitbull brothers. Oh, I mean, I can't wait for it. Well, I don't want them to go down, obviously, because a lot of people will lose jobs and it'll be a sad day. But that is what I'm looking forward to when these come over to the UFC and make a lot of sense and answer all the questions that we've always been wondering. Anyway, we'll talk about Aaron Pico. He knocked out Pedro Carvalho in the first round, and Aaron Pico steamrolled him. Did not give Pedro Carvalho a chance in this one. Absolutely murked him. Best way to say it. He used his wrestling, he used his cage control, he used his power, got Pedro flattened out, and that was all she wrote. How good is Aaron Pico? How good is he looking? Yeah, he had a close call with Jeremy Kennedy, but now I truly believe one of the best featherweights outside of the UFC, other than obviously we got Patricio Pitbull, we've got AJ McKee and stuff like that. So yeah, he's looking good. I'd love to see him inside the UFC, as I just mentioned. Sarah Collins beating Sinead Kavanagh, Mads Barnell beating Daniel Weichel, and obviously Daniel Weichel retired after that, after a fantastic career at 42 wins and 15 losses. A veteran inside the game. Peter Queally ends in a no contest, illegal kick to a down opponent. It kicked him in the eye, couldn't see, it was bleeding. It was a horrible mess. But yeah, what did you make of the Bellator card other than that?
I really think that Peter Queeley really can shine against a lot of the lower level guys, but it does appear that when he gets up to that upper level, he does tend to struggle. And it's a real shame because he had that one opportunity for the title and it just didn't work out. But I do think that Bellator's future is in question because there's some people saying that they're going to be they're going to be bought by PFL. Other people saying that going out this. We're not exactly sure what the deal is here, but either way, I do hope the best for the people employed there. There's a lot of people that found new life in Bellator, and I hope that the UFC finds some of them.
Absolutely. Kashan Magomed-Sharipov, fantastic prospect
Yeah.
inside MMA. He improves to 9-0. This dude's an absolute savage. Go watch him fight. Absolutely amazing fighter. Brother of Zabit Magomed-Sharipov. So yeah, he's entertaining. Kieran Clark as well, returning and getting back to winning ways. Well, he was winning anyway. He continues on winning ways. But my main highlight was Mark Ewan, the Scottish guys fighting in the prelim. Mark Ewan, he gets a win on his Bellator debut against Noah Guinon, the French 4-0 fighter, now 4-1. And Mark is a fantastic prospect, man. He is incredible. I love him. Everything. He mixes it up so well. He's a fantastic mixed martial artist. Got power in the hands. He's good at wrestling, good at the ground game. Another fantastic prospect to look at coming outside the UK. Fantastic event for Bellator 299. Potentially lost one in Dublin. It's sad. I know. At one point, I kind of thought, but I don't really want Bellator to go. Sometimes I kind of really enjoy the shows. I like having that occasional not UFC show that I can watch and still be good.
Yeah, and but hey, if you're living in Dublin and you're bummed out, UFC is coming next year with Ian Gary in that main event. You better bet.
Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be phenomenal. Ian Gary, Conan Loughran. Woohoo! You're gonna have a fun time there. And the EA, or was it the Free Arena, sorry, in Dublin. But yeah, we will talk about this fight night. And we'll talk about Mateusz Gamrot versus Rafael Fiziev in the main event. And it ended in anticlimactic fashion, should we say. Mateusz Gamrot wins the bout, but Rafael Fiziev had to, should we say, forfeit the match because of leg injury. But I was thinking, do you reckon he had to forfeit due to leg injury because the amount of kicks that were checked by Mateusz Gamrot? Is that something that we need to look at as well?
That's a real possibility, but at the end of the day, Rafael Fiziev putting weight on that leg ended up in the ACL tearing, and Gamrot hopped on the ground pound right away. Round one was very fun to watch. The takedown defense by Fiziev looked incredible. The guy's so athletic. He's got incredible quickness with his combinations. I really wish we'd have seen more. I was picking Gamrot to win this because I thought come round three, things would be a little different, but I gave round one to Fiziev and things didn't work out in the end. We have to see a rematch between these two when Fiziev is healed up, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. I'd love to see it happen sometime soon. It was looking like an absolute, it was going to look like an absolute barn burner for as long as it lasted. Rafael Fiziev is an absolute joy to watch. Always an entertaining fight. We talk about another joy to watch. That's Bryce Mitchell. He's entertaining, isn't he? He loves it. What he does inside and outside the ring, it just makes you want to watch a Bryce Mitchell fight. And this is what happened again. Grabbing the Bible, shouting at freedom. He's one of a kind, is he, Bryce Mitchell? He got the job done. What do you make his performance, and what do you make him as a character?
Yeah, Bryce Mitchell's always been open about his religious beliefs, and he's been more open than ever as of late, talking about some conspiracy theories that I find to be very entertaining, whether they're legitimate or not. But either way, he looked incredible in this fight because he was fighting a guy, Danny Gay, who beats many of the guys outside of the top 10, and he does it well. Sometimes he knocks them out. Bryce Mitchell is definitely the real deal. He came out there, dominated Danny Gay. Whenever the fight hit the ground, Danny Gay was not able to get up. But before he got those takedowns, he was doing major damage to Bryce Mitchell on the feet. Bryce Mitchell walked out with a really bad black eye after that fight. And if you gave the fight to Dan Ige, I wouldn't have said that was crazy, honestly. Dan Ige did real damage in this fight. But Bryce Mitchell has unbelievable top control. I do want to see him fight Mozart Evloev next.
Absolutely. This was a big deal for Bryce Mitchell. He needed to win this one off the back of the Ida Topuria fight. Big one. So, and he got the job done. He got the hand raised, and now he's back to winning ways. We talk about Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson Gomez. I don't really want to say much about this fight other than I feel sad for Michelle Waterson. It was tough to watch this one. These are the one of fights where I'm looking at and I'm thinking, wow, why is she still fighting? It was quite sad to watch because she was getting beaten up so much. Her face was a mess, blood everywhere. Is it time for Michelle Waterson to kind of call it a day now?
Uh, I personally think that there's no path for her to return to the title because she's lost to so many of these top contenders now. It's just unrealistic, especially when she's getting a little older, and especially the fact that she was originally an atom weight. So I do think it would be best for her to call it. I don't find a reason for her to take any more damage. Marina Rodriguez really did a number on her. These two had a fight in 2021. It was a main event 5 rounds. It was actually at flyweight, and it was nothing like this. It was more of a point fighting fight out there. So that was what I was expecting in this rematch. Instead, it was almost a bloody murder out there. Marina Rodriguez looked incredible in the clinch. I haven't seen this kind of bullying in the clinch in a long time. So Marina Rodriguez looked as violent and ruthless as ever. Really good to see her get a finish, but her calling out Tatiana Suarez after that did make me chuckle. Tatiana Suarez is the worst matchup for her in this division.
Absolutely. There was a lot of finishes on this event. Sorry, and we'll talk about Brian Battle getting a finish, a submission. Ren Ekichoke versus AJ Fletcher. Brian Battle, the tough veteran, the tough winner, improving his record. What did you make of him on this night?
I think Brian Battle has improved leaps and bounds from his days on The Ultimate Fighter. He gets finishes consistently. He taps out powerful grapplers all the time. I really like his whole skill set. He's one of the few guys to get finishes inside of a minute, and for him to just outclass AJ Fletcher like this, it shows that he's a top caliber guy. I do believe he's ready for top 15 opposition next.
Absolutely, he's a finishing machine. If you look at his record inside the UFC, he's 5-1. That sole loss was to Renat. The good guy. I forgot to say his second name. Renat.
Bakardinov.
That's the one, ladies and gentlemen. Renat, that guy. 20-2 inside MMA. So there's no shame in that loss. In that loss. But if you look at who's beat and knocked out, it's ridiculous. He's had 5 wins inside the UFC. 4 of them by knockout. Wow. He's exciting to watch, and he's showcasing it. He's knocked out Gilbert. Sorry, he's finished Gilbert Urbino by submission. Knocked out Takashi Sato with that absolutely that head kick that actually can be heard around the world. Gabe Green counter right hook, knocked him out. AJ Fletcher submitted him. 4 finishes in 5 wins inside the UFC. Wow. I mean, he's the one to watch for sure, and obviously tough as well. He got the ninja choke versus Andre Petrowski. Wow, this guy is definitely one to watch. He's just got to get it going now. He's still very young in the game. Fantastic win for Brian Battle. Always love to see him fight. Next one, Charles Jourdain versus Ricardo Ramos. And this one was good. Charles Jourdain submitting a BJJ black belt as good as Ramos. How good was that? Jesus.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a big Charles Jourdain fan, but I was worried for him here. He's struggled against guys that can take him down and hold him down in the past. You want to reference the Andre Philly fight, the Nathaniel Woods fight, but Ramos, he went for that takedown and he paid for it. Jourdain has a good guillotine. He's cut guys with it before, including Rando Veneta, and he looked good doing it out there. I do think that he's matured a little more than he once was. I do think he's now looking to win at all costs.
Absolutely. Miles Johns beats Dan Argueta. Tim Means getting a fantastic knockout win versus Andre Fiallo. Wild fight for as long as it lasted. Andre Fiallo's been in some absolute wars inside the UFC. Cody Brundage beating Jacob Malkoon. A disqualification. Illegal elbow to the back of the head. Didn't look good. Talk to me about them 3 fights.
That was an awesome fight between Tim Means and Andre Fiallo. It got the fight of the night. Fiallo had Tim Means in serious trouble, but Tim Means was able to counter Fiallo on his way in and bully him in the clinch and on the ground. And as for Cody Brundage and Jacob Malkoun, I just think that was really bad. A lot of people want to hate on Aljamain Sterling and other people, but that was awful. That sure that was an illegal shot, the forearm right to the back of the head, but Cody Brundage clearly could have continued if he wanted to. I hate to be that guy, but that wasn't a fight-ending shot right there. I feel like he kind of realized that if he lost this one, he's going to get cut, so he kind of saved his job with that forfeit in my book.
I mean, potentially, necessarily, I probably agree. He was on a 3-fight losing streak. If he loses this one, it's pretty much game over, isn't it? He was going to get released from the UFC. Lost to Michelle Olajashek, Rafael Rivera, and obviously Cedric Dumas in his last fight. So that was a must win. It was a must win, and he got the win, but at what cost? And we'll talk about the next 3. Muhammad Usman beating Jake Collier, Mizuki Inoue versus Hannah Goldie. Inoue gets the win. And Monezete Rendon versus Tamines Vidal. Wow. Muhammad Usman versus Jake Collier. I don't know how to talk about this one. The first 2 fights, the round, sorry, I don't know. I would say this is just a sloppy heavyweight fight. I think that's the best way to explain it.
Yeah, that's what we were expecting. But I actually thought that Jake Collier was going to win the sloppy heavyweight fight. But we've actually seen some improvements from Muhammad Usman. Muhammad Usman on the Ultimate Fighter. I felt like he was not really going for the knockout in some of those fights. I felt like he was scared to get hit, but in this fight, he embraced the brawl, and Collier was getting hit with a bigger, cleaner shot by a guy who is much more of a legitimate heavyweight, and that's what got the win for Muhammad Usman. Also, the fact that he's got wrestling in his back pocket. So, good to see Muhammad Usman making some improvements, because at one point, I truly thought that he was nowhere near UFC caliber, but you beat a guy like Jake Collier, you can hang around in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, absolutely. A little trash talk from Jake Collier before the fight as well, saying just because your brother's Kamaru Usman doesn't mean you can fight. I love it. A good line there from Jake Collier, but obviously did back it up the night after. So nonetheless, doesn't matter. Mizuki Inoue getting the win, and obviously Monzetarata versus Rendon versus Tamires Vidal. Talk to me about them first 2. Unfortunately, I can tune in for them.
Yeah, so Montserrat Rendon, she fought a 4-4 fighter in her fight previous to this, and she came in as the underdog and won by split decision. So I was not high in her at all. I thought Tamires Vidal would win this one. Vidal was a 2-1 favorite, but Vidal is not a great grappler. She kept on getting taken down. That's what won Rendon this fight. Chris Levin made his debut as a judge for a UFC event, and he was the sole judge that scored the fight in favor of Vidal. I thought that was in a bad scorecard, and it shows that Chris Levin is willing to be bold in some of his scorecards. So I do like that Levin is a judge now. And Mizuki versus Goldie, I was super confident Mizuki would win this one. She's got solid striking. Goldie, on the other hand, does not have an A+ skill, if you ask me. So I didn't think she would have a great chance at winning that one.
Absolutely, and that was pretty much UFC Vegas fight night. Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot. Back in the Apex, this one was, and we'll look forward to the next one. And I'll get that loaded up for you right now, just so we can talk about it. And that is
there's
Bobby
no
Green.
there's no UFC event this Saturday, but the week after we have Bobby Green versus Grant Dawson.
Absolutely, and that'll be on the next show of the podcast. So make sure you tune in for that one. But yeah, I'll quickly load it up just so we can see what we're in store for the podcast, and just look at the fights that we have available on that night. So yeah, let me load it up real quick.
It's a good one. It really is.
Main event, Grant Dawson versus obviously Bobby Green, and B like Joe Piper is in the co-main event versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Absolutely fantastic fight. Look forward to that one. Drew Dober returning. Felipe Lins versus Ian Kutalaba. Wow. Bill Algio versus Alexander Hernandez. Woo-hoo. Karolina Kowakevich. Woo. Absolutely love it. Alex Morono versus Joaquin Buckley. Wow. Some good fights. Oscar, when you're looking at this fight on paper, which one are you most looking forward to and why?
I think Alex Morono versus Joaquin Buckley will be an absolute banger. Both guys have got power in their hands. Joaquin Buckley has been calling out top 15 guys. Let's see if he's really a top 15 guy when he fights Alex Morono. That guy beats the majority of welterweights on that roster. He looks good doing it. So let's see if Buckley can climb over the hill there. And I'm also a huge Drew Dober fan. He's fighting Ricky Glenn, a relentless wrestler. I do think that Dober gets that round 1 KO there. I think Piper versus Abdulrazak Hassan 100% will not see the judges' scorecards. Both guys hit like a truck. Somebody's going down. And as for Grant Dawson, I'm a big fan of the guy. Follows me on Instagram. I think he's going to dominate Bobby Green out there and get that submission and call out a big name right after. Grant Dawson looked incredible in his last fight against Demir Ismagulov, and he dominated a really powerful grappler. So I think he's going to have a quick night with Bobby Green.
Completely agree. The fight I'm looking forward to the most is Joe Piper versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. On paper, should be a fantastic fight. Joe Piper looking absolutely fantastic since he entered inside the UFC. He's in the UFC game. It's incredible. Before a lot of people. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, that is insane. I do think that we're going to see a lot of finishers top to bottom on this card. This is not a fight card you want to miss.
Absolutely agree. Make sure you tune in next week to when we talk about them fights. But there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode, another installment of the Martin Silva MMA podcast. Make sure you catch it next week. Make sure you catch all the podcasts. Make sure you catch the podcast on all platforms, wherever you listen your podcast on. Oscar, do you have any sending words to the fans?
Yeah, Bellator's coming to Chicago November 17th for Bellator 301. And it is going to be headlined by Amos South versus Jackson. And I will be there that fight week to cover the action.
That's amazing. Looking forward to it. I appreciate you, Oscar. Appreciate your time. Appreciate everyone's time listening to the show right now. Thank you very much. If you made it this far, I don't know. Then what are you doing me, love? I'm joking. I appreciate you. Catch you all next week. See you all next week. Same time, most likely on the Thursday, 6 p.m. UK time. And I don't know what that is in American time. But yeah, be there, be square. See you next week. Thank you very much.